Welcome to my HHN 30 video recap. I'm just going to talk over these pictures. Here is the map of the entire park. It's really awesome. They have 10 haunted houses, several scare zones, rides. Here's the gates as you walk in, right from outside. It's always themed to that year. Really cool. Here's the first scare zone, 30 years, 30 fears. Featured a lot of the icons from the past 30 years. Had a lot of flames shooting up, lots of really cool lights. I thought this scare zone was really fantastic. And here's a short video of it with Mickey and Adam walking in front of me. It's hard to capture on video because it's something you really should see in person in real life. But lots of heavy metal music, guys in pumpkin suits, bright lights. The scare zones are sort of fun just because they're out in the open and I don't know, just sort of sets the mood for the houses, which you won't see video of because they do not allow recording. So this is, the scare zones are the only things you'll get videos of, but yeah, they're a lot of fun. So the first house we're going to look at is Wicked Growth Realm of the Pumpkin, my favorite of this year. These are sort of the only shots I got from the queue, the entrance. Really cool, tons of pumpkins. Here is another scare zone. I believe this is the Eddie scare zone. This is sort of like several characters from past Horror Nights put on small stages as if they're making a Horror Nights video with Eddie. And pretty cool scare zone too. This is one of the, if you go one way, you saw the icons scare zone that we saw earlier, and then if you take a right you would go through this one, so there's no way to avoid the scare zones, which is a lot of fun. Obviously you pay a lot to come to this, so why would you, but there's really no safe space, and this had a lot of interaction, probably the most interaction out of all the scare zones, I would say. And you can see the small stages set up, and there's all kinds of shows that are happening during this. Just really unique and cool, and a fake little food truck full of blood and guts and aliens and chainsaw guys. Hard to explain in such a short time, but there's a lot of backstory to these characters. As you can see, people sort of just stroll through. Lights, camera, action is that scare zone. The next house was Beetlejuice. One that was supposed to happen last year, opened for one day last year, and all I have is the entrance for this one because they do not allow filming inside, but really cool house. Here's a scene from the water show this year. Again, really cool. I couldn't film and didn't want to film the whole thing, but this is what I got. Hopefully YouTube doesn't take me down for using music, but you can see a lot of Universal monsters, Leatherface. They use a lot of really classic monsters because they're Universal Studios, and a lot of the icons this year. So yeah, they projected out on the water and the buildings behind the water. There's Leatherface. You have to get a good spot if you want to see the sort of the best angle, because projecting on water isn't always the best, but it's pretty cool. It has like a 3D effect. There was like a chainsaw coming at us, and we saw this probably 3 or 4 times, at least 3 times. It was really cool. They did their first one maybe 2 years ago. Last year obviously they didn't do one because Horror Nights was canceled, but I hope they keep this up because it's really cool to see Leatherface, the size of a 3-story building. Like I said, I didn't record this whole thing, but got quite a bit of it. The next was Haunting on Hill House from Netflix, one of my favorite series of recent years. Really fantastic house. There's the entrance. They were playing the show on the right, and then you walked in on the left there. Here's another photo from Lights, Camera, Action with Eddie and, I'm drawing a blank. Jack the Clown is sort of the main icon of Halloween Horror Nights. Here's another one. I don't even really remember the name of the scare zone. It wasn't my favorite. This is usually the biggest area in the park. This is what they call Central Park. It's supposed to be the New York area, and these are supposed to be it's 19, sort of the government takeover. These aliens are taking over the humans. They have a lot of them on stilts with flashlights, as you can see there, and these sort of guys with domes over their faces. It just wasn't scary, and they were having a hard time scaring people. So, they grabbed chainsaws just to have that noise. A lot of really big set pieces, which is really cool, but just not great theming, I didn't think, for what they put out there, and I imagine the money they spent on something like this. Not my favorite, to be honest, and the last couple of years in this area haven't been my favorite. They've done The Purge back here, and that was probably my favorite scare zone of all time. It just adapts itself to this area so perfectly, but yeah, it's just like I said, just not a super cool scare zone. I don't know, I didn't find it at all intimidating. These guys in very sterile white suits with red flashlights, it was too complicated. Like, you almost have to use recognizable characters in these scare zones for the general public, and it took too much explaining. So I don't know, they use these big pillars and have guys staying on top, and they're adapting to COVID, which I understand. These helmets are sort of work as masks, but not my favorite. Here we're back and doing a Moldorama at the Tribute store. This year they had a new green pumpkin and a sort of silverish purple gray Frankenstein's monster head. So you can sort of see the machine actually working. You can see some of the wax dripping out of the front. I think these were like $6. They were having a lot of issues with them. I think this is the pumpkin. I exchanged it for a better one at the service counter at the cash registers, but these have become my favorite souvenirs from Halloween Horror Nights, just because they're so unique and you can't get them anywhere else. They're customized. They have the Universal logo on the back. I think I've shown them in previous videos, but here's sort of a cool video of it actually being made and why it's so unique. And there, pops it out down there. You can see, and this one was in pretty bad shape, so they traded me. And there's a picture of both of them together. Really cool. I love those things. We had a Texas Chainsaw Massacre house. We've had one maybe 3 or 4 years ago, but surprise, this one actually had, and there's the queue, the front of it, and yeah, they did Bride of Frankenstein Lives, which I actually saw last year, another fantastic house, and there is a facade. That's the word I was looking for, facade. So the Texas Chainsaw actually had a lot of Texas Chainsaw 2 stuff. We did a lights on tour, which was really, really cool. Here are some photos from that. Some might be better than others, but this is from the Bride of Frankenstein house. So I just took a lot of pictures of the details. There's one of the monsters that's a dummy. Someone can crawl in there and sort of react to people. You have an actor there. They just put so much detail into these houses, so you're just going to see a lot of really cool, like there's the brides themselves. There's a really deep story that went with this. I won't get too much into it, but I just took tons of pictures because our friend Adam got us as a gift the lights on tour. It was like 3 hours, and we only did half the houses, which is really, really cool. But some beautiful detail like that. The stained glass is really cool, and there's really good details. The Icon's house was huge. We didn't get to go inside it, but we did get to take pictures of the facade, and you'll see icons across the top where it says that. This one we saw last year too, Revenge of the Tooth Fairy, and I believe I have a lot of pictures of this one. So this one is pretty simple. It's laid out like a pop-out book, which I thought was really unique. And you're basically walking through a pop-out book, as you can see here. The story sort of faces this kid who loses his teeth and doesn't want to give them up to the Tooth Fairy, so he keeps them. And the Tooth Fairy comes back and kills him and his entire family. So as you go through the house, you hear the story over the speakers, and you see things get worse and worse as you progress through the house. As you can see, there's more and more decay on the walls. The house itself is sort of decaying like a rotten tooth. There's their servant, who is now dead. And it's sort of cool. They actually write the story on the walls as you walk through, so you can read as you go. Some poor chess player got theirs. As the Westfalls, I believe, is what the family here is. But you see, all this stuff is really cool. Each bell had a name on it. There's someone, that thing would be smoking at night when all the electronics are turned on. There's a dead person on a bed. Behind it is in like a cage, so you couldn't touch it. But lots of gore. When we went last year, there was no blood in the house, which was interesting. There's a better wide shot of it. Every child owes a debt. And I tried to they told us certain rooms you could take pictures, certain rooms you couldn't. This is an original Halloween Horror Nights house, so we could take lots of pictures. And so it's sort of cool to go through and see it like a storybook. Some more pictures and more detail. Some really cool stuff. More and more details. All the cobwebs, heads, everything. Like, they reuse a lot of stuff, but they add new stuff. Case Files Unearthed Legendary Truth was a very complicated house. I took lots of pictures of this, but even with the lights on tour, it was very, very complicated and almost too much to follow. But basically, this private investigator is searching out these urban legends about old monsters and cryptoids and that kind of stuff. And these post-it notes all had notes on them. And each sort of noir cover like that, pulp cover, alluded to what he was researching. And it's a beautiful house, but it was just overly complicated for what it was. Again, so much detail in this one that going through at night, I really had no idea what it was about. Going through during the day, I mean, look at all that detail. There's no way to read that when the lights are off, let alone with the lights on tour. So I appreciated it, but it was just a little too meta. Like, it was too much of an inside story. If you didn't know what was going on beforehand and didn't really do a tour, very confusing. But again, I know they just walk drunk people through here, so I'm not really sure why they would do something so complicated. This is actually built in the Shrek Theater. They have a Shrek 3D theater that's closing early next year, but they use it has 2 theaters in it, and they use half of it for Horror Nights every year. And this was the house that went in there this year. Pretty cool, but I just wanted to get a lot of shots of the details, because no matter how much I love or hate a house, I appreciate how much work and people always ask me, it's like, these are like movie sets. They are very, very detailed, very, very cool. They spend a lot of time and effort on them. So I took lots and lots of pictures of this one, as you can tell. Really cool sort of old theater in a club. I don't remember there we go, the Kitty Cat Club, which they have that sign out in the park also, so it ties into the regular Universal Studios park. There was a bar inside during when the house was actually open. There would be a bartender back there, and then a demonoid singing, like a demon girl singing up on that stage. Really cool. All the voices and scares are foot activated, which was really cool to sort of see with the lights on. Lots of dead people again. More dead people. And that was like the legendary truth insignia at the end. Sort of cool to see. This was from the Nightmare Fuel dance show. They ask you not to take any pictures or videos, so that's all you get. There's a great Crypt TV scare zone this year. You'll probably see a little video of that here. Cool stuff. See a little bit there. There's Adam with his mask on walking through. It was pretty cramped back here, so I understand. This is based on Crypt TV, which is a series on YouTube. Didn't love it, to be honest. We watched some of the videos before going because we had never seen this. And each little stage is based on an episode of Crypt TV. And there's their logo, you can see. These used to be sort of fun interactive areas. Now people go back there for photo ops, and it sort of drives me nuts because this area is very, very tight. And it's a nightmare to get through, let alone see anything. So I feel like we probably missed out on some of this stuff just because we did not want to stop. And this crowd here is pretty light compared to what it normally was. I don't know if I took this early or super late, but crowds tend to die out right towards closing, and that's the best time to get some videos. But cool set pieces. You can see a headless guy there, and they would do these little shows. Puppet Theater, another really cool house. you won't get any footage of that, but you can see the facade there is really cool. It's a movie theater that it's been taken over by haunted puppets. Really think that's a great shot of the facade. The queue is really cool. There's Nikki giving her best evil look in front of the Grandeur Theater. Scary Tales, man, not my favorite house either. I think a little bit better than Case Files, but that one was just like a modge podge of previous houses. Not a huge fan. There's the Monsters Cafe, everyone's favorite place to eat during horror nights. And I think here's the hotel we were staying at. Really, really nice. And I think that's it.